there is so much isms, but the one of ableism I'm experiencing. You're diminished, you're forgotten, you're not seen. People think, how can we heal you? Equate it to Hairism, right?
Yeah.
The sense that you must have a life that is defined as normal.
My name is Wafaya Abdallah, owner of Curly Oasis Inc., a curl-centric salon and education platform in Rockville, Maryland. Since opening the salon in 2005, we've seen how teaching people to care for their curls is a step into a much deeper journey of self-acceptance and empowerment. This show explores some of those different journeys and the lessons that we've learned along the way in hair care and in life. This is the Curl Code. Today we welcome Luby Ismail. I first met Luby at Arabic school, where our kids would go on Sundays and learn about their heritage. And then I came to find out that she is a badass. She is a strong, vibrant woman that founded a nonprofit called Connecting Cultures. It really came about after 9/11. Luby is an Egyptian American, married to an American Muslim, and really saw the unfairness of how Muslims were portrayed in American society post 9/11. Luby, welcome.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Let's start with being an Egyptian woman and the journey of you embracing your natural hair. I know in Egypt now it's making its way into society, but you and I are in our late 50s. And so if you could share with us about your hair journey.
Well, my hair journey was growing up in a small southern town in the United States. I remember this product that my mom brought called Curl Free. And it was a relaxer. And it was all about making my hair straight. I wanted straight hair because that was the concept of beauty. And when I did go to Egypt, that was when we would go to the coiffeur, the beauty salon. And with that, what they would do, they would take that curling iron and you would smell your hair burning, and there would be that steam off your hair. But you would come out there and feel like, oh, wow, my hair is, quote unquote, in your mind, thinking it's beautiful.
And that curling iron was a stove iron that they actually put on an open flame, the Marcel iron, right?
Exactly. It was an open flame.
Yeah.
And that was when you changed my life. You changed my life because I was asked to speak at Microsoft at their headquarters for Martin Luther King Jr. Event. And I was going to be one of their diversity perspectives. And I thought, how could I go there and be inauthentic and be someone that wasn't fully me? And I saw you, that beautiful curly hair. And I saw also women at the Sunday school that we would convene at. And those beautiful curly hair. And I thought, I want that. And I remember coming to Oasis and you did my hair. And I was so shocked because I never thought my hair could be in such luscious, beautiful, using that adjective equated to curls. That was the beginning. And I never turned back. It was really transformative. And in my journey with connecting cultures, I, you know that I've been invited to the White House with President Obama. And I would say, I'm going to the White House. I need you with that. And you're always there to say, we got you. But also, what's so wonderful is that you've taught not only me, but hundreds of girls and women how to feel empowered, that we don't have to just come to the salon like when getting your hair straightened, but you educate. And by educating, you empower.
Beautiful. Yes. And, there are curl specialists. It's not only me, it is a new genre of hairdressers. And I can tell you that all of us feel the same way. It's really falling in love, watching people falling in love with themselves. And it's addictive.
It's addictive. It is. And I mean, I feel like I'm a walking commercial for curly hair because so many women, when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and in my journey with MS, I have now more and more needing to go to the doctors for various appointments. And I meet women who are from West Africa or women from South America or women from North Africa, yes. But what they always say is, I love your hair. And I'm like, well, you can have this hair too. And I'm like, go to Oasis.
Yes.
And that's what I hope this podcast is providing, is that it's a way to populate and I guess propagate, it is a sense of how can we really inform people. So the most painful thing is to see that girls, and I know someone from Mexico, she's a grandmother, and she says her granddaughter has curly hair. And she always says, I want my hair to be like you, abuela, because she's Mexican. But this granddaughter, her father is, I guess, from a country where she has more curls. And she goes, I want my hair to be like you, which means what? Straight.
Yeah, we hear that a lot. Thank you for sharing that you are experiencing MS in this lifetime. And that's really an added layer, isn't it, to hair care? Because I remember when you were first, sometimes blow drying, sometimes wearing it curly, one of the challenges you have is that you couldn't do your own hair. You were having your aides help you, and they were not clear on how to help you. And of course, when you straighten your hair, many people think, well, that's easy because I can keep it for a period of days and I don't have to do anything.
Yes.
And it took some time, right, for us to train your aides.
Yes, and even my husband, because when we traveled to we'll be traveling in a couple of weeks, and I'll make sure there's no question. And so I say, we either come to Oasis or they get trained. But, with my husband, he knows, use the spray bottle, bring the products. We got to make sure.
That's great. So you figured it out. That way, other people who are using wheelchairs, and you did teach me that it's not people in wheelchairs, it's people using wheelchairs.
Yes,
Will
thank you.
also have success in wearing their hair curly. One of the reasons that we're here today and speaking, not only are you an incredible human being and all that you do and the force that you are.
Thank you.
Recently, we were having a discussion and you were sharing with me this whole concept of ableism, which I had never heard of. And I think it's such an important message. Would you please speak to that?
Well, it's a new one for me. And it's one that, because I've graduated from using a cane to a walker to a scooter and now in a power chair, is the sense that life fully well lived and valued is only through walking and through, quote unquote, looking normal, equated to hairism, right?
Yeah.
Because the concept of beauty is only straight hair, that you work for this corporation or company, you've got to look, the company expects you to fit in, right? And so ableism is the sense that you must have a life that is defined as normal. And there is so much isms, but the one of ableism I'm experiencing. People, you're diminished, you're forgotten, you're not seen. People think, how can we heal you? What do you need? And I have my AAA, accept, adapt, achieve. That, yes, it's been a journey, but I live a full life. I travel, I work, I can communicate. I have 3 children. I go out. Yes, it may be different than the one that you have, the one that I was born into or that I lived maybe in the past. I mean, most of my life I've had not MS, but it's more and more progressed. But ableism is one that people's unconscious bias and what I call the naive offenders.
Tell me more about that.
Well, the naive offenders, it's where an offense is made that they're naive to. So they say, for example, oh, I'm sorry, sister. Well, what are you sorry about? It's like, I don't look at you and say, I'm sorry, brother, or I'm sorry to you. I mean, just by looking at me.
They feel sorry for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to pray for you,
Right.
I'm going to pray that you can walk again. And I've, as you know, as a public speaker, I've had this speech, walking with your heart. And I've learned that I'm a much fuller, grateful person, honestly, Wafaya, by pausing and walking with my heart. Because when I was so busy and moving, and I didn't have the I mean, this disease has kicked my butt.
Yeah.
This disease, I'm not saying it's been easy.
I think you're kicking each other's butt, by the way.
It is. But it's really, there's a real sense of coming to, like I say, acceptance. And as us as Muslims, this sense of surrendering, accepting my fate and destiny, that in the end has given me the greatest peace. Because in the end, doesn't mean that I'm giving up. Before you were here, I had my trainer here and we were working out as best I can. And I, as you know, I swim and I'm really very strongly committed to give back in any way that I can. And one of the ways is always to promote a way that people can see the full humanity and feel that they belong. And that includes curly hair.
Yeah. Beautiful, powerful words. I'll tell you, you have more stamina than I do. Every time I see you, you've came from somewhere. I think you're going to a concert after this, after working out with your trainer. And really, you're a force. You're a force, and you're a rebel through and through. I remember that you would have a sign on the back of your wheelchair. Do you remember that?
Which one?
Oh my gosh, you have so many. Do you want to share with us some of the ones you put on there?
Access is love.
Yes.
Yes. And I don't know what other. Keep an open mind.
Yes, all of them. You're using every ounce of your being and accessories, because that wheelchair is an accessory.
Yes.
To use your voice.
Sticker.
Yes. Yes. And a true force. Tell us about the time when you started connecting cultures. It was after 9/11. Yes?
Yes.
What made you do it? How did you navigate it? If you could just share some of that journey with us.
Well, connecting cultures, it was born out of my own life story, because I always connected across cultures. And I after 9/11, I remember the Justice Department calling and they said, "We need you." And I thought, "You need me for what?" And they said, "Well, we need you because there's been a backlash towards Arabs, Muslims, and those perceived to be. And we received your name to help us engage more effectively with these communities that are now under risk, at risk." And I'll never forget, I was at a standing room only at the Justice Department. I had prepared as if I was going to be a scholar. And I thought I needed to answer all their questions. I needed to make sure I knew. And Wafaya, I'm not a scholar. I'm not an academician. And I really found that, yes, they had listened. They had heard me. But I then was asked to go around the United States for years from them to speak with law enforcement officers, with community leaders, educators. And in the end, what really resonated was sharing stories about my American Muslim experience. And that my best friends, because were actually evangelical Christians in high school, because I said they didn't drink, I didn't drink. They didn't do drugs. I didn't do drugs. We were able to come to a place where our values brought us together. And that's what I wanted to remind the Americans, because there was such a sense of, can we trust them? I said, we are not them. We are not those people. And I did this veil exercise.
Yes, I did want to bring that up because I really remember you sharing that with me, and it resonated so much.
I covered my hair, even though, now I'm proud of my curly hair, but I wore an hijab,
a veil,
and I then did not speak. So I would tell them, don't introduce me. And I would come up to the stage. And that was actually when I was still able to walk. And I remember then with Slide saying, what are your first stereotypes and assumptions about women dressed like me? And what did they say? Foreigner, not from here, don't speak English, uneducated, unsophisticated,
oppressed.
What else? Submissive. And of course, the T word after 9/11, terrorist. And then the next slide I had was, yet I'm none of these. And then I had the next slide, and one by one would come up. I am a businesswoman. I am a Southerner. I am a soccer mom. I am a former Girl Scout. I am
a rebel.
I'm a former Miss Softball America player.
Wow.
And then I said, I am Muslim. And the last one is, I am an American. And then ended with, so the next time you see a woman with her hair cover, remember, she is much more than just that.
Wow. Powerful. Yeah.
But again, the stereotypes.
It's you're right. It's on and on. There's certain stereotypes that we all assume to be true, and it's really demeaning to other people. And one of the things also that you told me about ableism is well-meaning, and I think this is important because I didn't know this, and I really want people to know it. Even though people are very well-meaning, they would come and tell you how they're going to help you instead of ask you what you need.
Right. And they speak louder to you and louder to you. They're like,
because you can't.
I help you? I'm like, no, can I help you? Right.
That's crazy.
I've had it. I've had that. Yes. But when I had a cane, people would grab my cane and say, let me take that and help you. Or, I can push that for you. Ask the person. Don't assume. Remember, don't assume, because it'll make an ass out of you and me.
Yes.
Right?
That's so
but that is till now. And I think that there is such a fear of being disabled, that they don't want to talk about it, or they go way over. And yet being disabled is a 24/7 open enrollment. Look, COVID taught us that. And also think about disability rights for parents who have children with autism or think about people who are deaf, or think about people who are ADD or ADHD, or, I mean, there are so many. Think about people who just may be, I mean, it crosses all, it's crosses race, it crosses cultures, it crosses ethnicity.
Yeah, it's equal opportunity.
It is equal opportunity.
And even the word disabled, I've always had an issue with. You may be aware that our youngest son was born prematurely.
Yes.
And as a result, experiences very mild cerebral palsy. Even I didn't know what that was, but it's trauma to the brain between the ages of pre-birth and 2. And it can show up in such a huge range. It is a huge spectrum. And, he's even had certain experiences where, I remember one time he was traveling to Costa Rica and security stopped him thinking he was on drugs or drunk, trying to get his bag off the belt. And they didn't speak English and they had to get an interpreter. And he kept saying, I have CP. And they didn't get it. And finally, the interpreter understood what it was. And it was quite embarrassing for him, even though I said, you're probably serving the greater good because now these people will think twice the next time.
Before.
But the word disability to me, disabled.
I know.
What about differently abled?
Right.
Disabled. And, now for ADHD and all these things, I think people are saying neurodiverse. It's such a more uplifting way of describing it.
And I used to say, I did a presentations every month, believe it or not, for the CIA. And I call my presentations diverse abilities. Diverse abilities. But, again, I've learned that people with disabilities are diverse. So how they want to be defined is up to them, and so to be able to ask, I mean, for me, Wafaya, what hurts is I'm so much more than this chair.
So much more.
And yet it's what people see and what they want to ask about and talk about. And I want to talk about my children, my company,
your
my
politics,
travels, there's just,
there's so much more.
But this is what they see, and so I've used it as an opportunity.
Smart.
And education. And then I pivot, to get people to be able to learn more,
That's so fabulous.
Because, just like with curly hair is an opportunity, because that, by me going to do some treatment at the doctors or the hospital, maybe it is for MS, but then it's turned talking about hair, which recently that was with a nurse. And because I know they're wearing a wig.
Oh, wow.
I know it.
Yeah. And
she's wonderful and beautiful and amazing. And I said, trust me, go to Oasis. You can learn this.
Yes, and there are other curl specialists in Maryland too. They're certainly welcome at Oasis, but it is a growing field, not as fast as we want it to. If we could just take a minute. You're a family of rebels.
I am?
Yes, you are a family of rebels. So we talked about you and the connecting cultures and really listen, anybody who keeps talking to you about the wheelchair after they meet you is blind because your energy is such a force.
Thank
and
you.
Your husband also, who is an American.
A white guy from Pennsylvania.
A white guy from Pennsylvania who was born half Jewish, half Christian, and in college found Islam. So he is literally all of it.
Yes.
And now is a documentary filmmaker.
Right.
Would you like to give a plug?
Yes. Alex Cronemer, my husband, who we will have been married 36 years, is really been just a phenomenal supporter. And it was actually Wafaya. He was the one, Mr. Straight Hair he is, said, Luby, stop straightening your hair. Stop blow drying your hair.
Now, wait a minute. He has curls too.
He has waves. He has waves, but
That counts.
He was the one that said, keep your hair curly.
Yes, that's so
it's
common.
More beautiful. That was him.
We often hear that from husbands encouraging their wives. Leave it alone.
I know.
It's so beautiful.
I know.
Yeah.
So, but Alex, his company, Unity Production Foundation, UPF.TV, has been this award-winning, Emmy-nominated documentary films that really is to educate and to illuminate the American public, but also the world about Islam and about Muslims, but also really to show the human stories. Like the last one was the great American road trip.
Yeah, on PBS.
I saw it. On Route 66.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it because it said the Muslim the Muslim story is really the American story, because they go along Route 66 and they tell the story of Muslims across Route 66.
Yeah.
But the next film I'm really excited about, because it's about love in Islam. And starting, of course, with the great love story that it began with, the Prophet Muhammad and his first believer when he was doubtful, which is Khadija.
Yeah.
But also really going through the story of Rumi, who wrote so much about love in his poems, and about Malcolm X and his sister. His sister, there was such a love story of her support to him. So, Alex, the films are really, if you have not seen any of them, Amazon Prime or UPF.TV, well worth a watch.
Well, and even a lot of his older documentaries were about times in history where Muslims and Christians and Jews worked together to move humanity forward.
Islamic Spain, beautiful film that goes to Granada and tells how 700 years Muslims ruled Spain. 700 years. And yet it didn't last. And sadly, it scares me, because looking at what's happening in our country, because we are only 240 years old. And what led to the fall of Spain was infighting. And we don't want that. We want to look at how we can remain united. And the beautiful tapestry of our diversity that existed in Islamic Spain and exist here in the United States. So we're going through growing pains.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Yes.
Through pains comes growth.
That's Cleo in the background there. Yeah. And so I was referring to a family of rebels. Your son, Zechariah, who is gorgeous and has
curly hair
and gorgeous curly hair.
I know.
I'm credited for changing his life, even though I don't know about that. But he's definitely you and Alex's son. I know he was involved with Greenpeace for a time. He's really huge on the pipeline a huge environmentalist.
Yes.
And really, his life is dedicated to fighting for the good of humanity.
He's, he believes that humanity is at risk, and thus we must do what's necessary for the planet. So as a result, his sense of he has taken many a risk. He's now though doing farming, and he's also working for the small farmers association. But he really finds that we must be able to take care of those who don't have access to natural, good food.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's in Richmond, Virginia. And Zakaria just finished harvest. So he was here as you saw him yesterday.
Yeah.
But I mean, he works in the field and he loves the community that comes together. But now he's very much about telling the stories of resisting fossil fuels, and also in his films that he's making, but also in building alliances and advocacy.
What a family. I think you guys are going to save the world.
I don't think so.
So I'm curious, is there something that you would like to say as far as people using wheelchairs and taking care of their hair? Any pieces of advice?
The way to support people with disabilities in hair care, and at least for me, I know I, through my journey and stages of multiple sclerosis, find salons that can accommodate you.
Mm.
That is humiliating, to be not able to have easy access, and to put your physical well-being at risk for beauty, for your own self-care and health. But and you did that, and it meant a lot to me.
Well, when we were remodeling the salon, we really did make every effort to consider everyone. And we are able to move. We have shampoo beds, not chairs. So we are able to move it so that anyone using a wheelchair can back their wheelchair up and adjust it, and we can cleanse their hair.
Yeah, I love it. I just did it yesterday.
It was because of you.
I love it.
It was because of you. You brought the awareness to us.
Versus the sink in the kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I remember. Again, the best person to ask is that individual. We are not monolith. We are not monolith. Just like Black people are not monolith. Just like Muslims are not monolith. Just like Latinos are not monolith. That there is that I am not the spokesperson. Ask before you assume. What do you need? How can I be an ally? I say, let me tell you what my experience has been with someone living with MS. Because, for example, I'm saying I prefer using a wheelchair, but there may be somebody else that says, I'm fine with in a wheelchair. What's her problem?
Mm.
Right?
Mm.
So don't assume, now that I'm aware, now that I've been given that conversation to be able to recognize that you need to realize that everybody may have different preferences, and take the time to educate yourself. That this happens to people who are people of color, that too many times it's like, well, we need you to tell us. I hear this. I've heard from friends and in my work, say, I'm tired of trying to feel I need to educate you. I need you to do the work.
Yeah.
If it really matters, then okay, let's put this out there. Now we've got Google, Dr. Google Ableism, and do, just spend 5 minutes and say, hey, I value her. I value this. I want to be an ally. What can I do? And now I know that, for example, it feels really good that I can send to you, Wafaya, a piece of legislation that the MS Society has sent to me to say, send this to your senators, that I'm going to be able to pass it on to you. And then you might be able to say, hey, I know my good friend. I'm going to pass it on to somebody else. That's what I need from you.
Yes. And I really want to interject here also. Recently, I was watching the Netflix docuseries on the blue zones, living to 100 plus. And one of the things that came out of it, and even through the pandemic more and more, is how healthy and important the human connection is. And so I would also add that however a person is diversely abled, whatever a person, however they show up, that we really honor the human to human connection and sit with them and speak. I think, one of the reasons you're so vibrant is because you are such a social creature.
I'm so grateful you said that, because today I had a friend come. She was first introduced to me because she was going through postnatal, what's it called? Depression.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Postpartum.
Postpartum. And she's from Lebanon. And she was brought to me to kind of be a uplifting supporter. But who was here today bringing me dates from Saudi Arabia, yogurt, Arabian coffee? It was her, because she said, I want to sit with you. And it meant a lot to me, because in this busy world, and, social media with that, I say it's antisocial. Mm-hmm. Because yes, we can see each other and see each other's lives. Great. But gone are the days of, hey, let me go drop by. Let me knock on your door.
Yes. We have texting now.
Yes, texting rather than talking.
Yes.
They said that the iPhone protocol came out and it said, don't leave voicemails, that it should only be text. I'm like, sorry, I'm not of that generation. I want to hear people's voices.
Yeah, the human connection.
And
that's the best thing.
And it means a lot to me to see people. So, and we can have 1,000 friends on Facebook, on Instagram, whatever it may be. But you know what? Even if we can have 3, 4, 5 quality friends, that's what matters.
Yes.
I'm going to come to you, or I'll come to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Luby. What a wonder. It went by so fast. I love you back.
I love you.
The Curl Code is brought to you from the Oasis Curl Salon in Rockville, Maryland, hosted by the one and only Wafaya Abdallah. Learn more about Curly Oasis at www.curlyoasis.com and continue your curl education journey by finding them on Instagram and YouTube. If you like the show, please leave us a 5-star rating, but most importantly, please share the show with anyone you think would enjoy it. The Curl Code is a Say More production.